Hey guys, it's Vaness here with Notary to Notary, and in this video, I'm going to be telling you my top 10 things that you should know as a Virginia commissioned notary. Ready to get started? Now, I've been a commissioned notary in Virginia for a long time. I got my commission initially in 2014, so I've been doing it for almost 10 years, and I've learned a lot of things along the way, so I want to share with you my top 10 things that I think you should know operating as a commissioned notary in the Commonwealth of Virginia. So, let's get into it. Number one. When you are operating as a notary commissioned by the state, you need to know the ID verification methods. So in Virginia, you have a few ways that you can confirm and validate a signer's identification. So the first thing is personal knowledge. If I personally know you, we're friends, and we went to school together, we work together, we're family, we know each other, I don't have to see your ID because I personally know you, okay? So that's the first thing. If I personally know you, then we're good to go. Now remember, in the state of Virginia, you cannot notarize for your spouse, but you can notarize for your aunt, your cousin, your uncle, all that good stuff. Remember also, you can notarize for family, but you never want to notarize a document where you as the notary, you are actually benefiting from that document. So let's say, for example, a will and you're being left a car or a house, you would not notarize that document. So if you're benefiting from it, do not notarize it, okay? So you have personal knowledge. You also can use government-issued unexpired identification. So that is a U.S. or foreign passport. It could be a military ID, it could be a driver's license, a state ID card, anything that's government issued that is still valid, so unexpired. You can use that, and it needs to have a photo ID. So you cannot use a social security card because although it's government issued, there's no picture. So you can't tell if this is the actual person that's standing in front of you, so you cannot validate their identity, okay? So you have personal knowledge, you have government issued ID, and then you have this really fun one called credible witness, okay? So in Virginia, we have the credible witness law, and basically how it works is, let's say you have person A that has no ID and you do not know them. They can have two over the age of 18 adults that are validating who they are, but they also have to have ID. So they have to have government issued ID so that you can validate their identity, and those two witnesses will then vouch for the signer, okay? They can also be person A, and they have one credible witness, but you as the notary personally know that credible witness, okay? So you have the signer and two credible witnesses with government issued ID, or the signer and one credible witness that me as the notary personally knows that witness, okay? So those are the ways that you can verify someone's identification or identity before you notarize their documents in Virginia. This is also found in your state handbook, so please take the time before you do anything else, before you say, Vanessa, I want to go make 6 figures, I'm ready to start working, go read your handbook, okay, before you do anything else. Read it. It's like 26 pages. It's online. Download it. Read it. Highlight it. Sticky note it. Take notes. Memorize it. Okay? Master the law, because if you do anything that's not legal, you are personally liable as the notary. Okay? Awesome. Number 2. Your notary journal. So in the state of Virginia, you are not required to keep a notary journal for in-person notarizations, okay? You are required to keep a notary journal for online or e-notary notarizations, okay? So in-person is not required, but it is recommended, and I recommend you keep one. Reason being, as a commissioned notary, if anything is ever contested and you have to go to court, you have to basically validate the notarization that was done. And although it's not required to have a notary journal for in-person notarizations, when you go to court, you can present it if you have it. Because it's not required, they can't require you to present it. So it's basically off of whatever you remember. So that there is like, I guess our law kind of needs to catch up. But basically, because it's not required, you are not required to present it. But having it keeps you safe from anything else. And it's like, okay, this is what happened, and your notary journal will show the document notarized, the signer, the ID presented, all that good stuff. So it just kind of helps you if you ever are petition to come to court for anything. And usually, if you're going to get petition to go to court, it's going to be for like a will or a POA, something like that gets contested, okay? And you actually notarize that document. So you would go like to the probate court hearing and just, talk to the judge and everyone about the document that was notarized. So keeping a journal is highly, highly recommended, although not required as of today. What is this, 2023? Not required, recommended for in-person. E-notary, it is absolutely required. Number 3, RON. So remote online notary, of course, is this huge, big, fun thing that's been coming out and actually been out for several years, but it became really popular with COVID. And so Virginia was actually the very first state to enact remote online notarizations. Yay! So remote online notarizations got really popular during the COVID pandemic, and that's where notaries such as yourself are able to get an additional approval certification from the state of Virginia that allows them to conduct online notarization. So if you're a traditional notary that's commissioned, you have to go online and apply. I believe it's like another $40 or $45 to also be able to do online notarizations. And this is where you're notarizing documents online, okay, for your clients. Now, the cool thing about RON is that you can do it 24 hours a day, 7 days a week, holidays, whenever you want to. You can notarize for anyone, anywhere in the world, okay? So it opens up like all of your client base, so you don't have to actually physically be in person with someone. But you wanna remember these 2 things. First, it's very tech heavy. So if you don't have a really strong computer base, go learn it first and then get into RON, because it is a lot of tech support that you'll be giving, helping your clients get on sessions and navigating the systems to get those documents notarized, okay? The other thing is the identity verification methods are different for RON. So we have the traditional ones, the personal knowledge, the credible witness, the government issued ID, but then there's more like KBA and biometrics and identity verification. So there's more identity verification methods that you need to be knowledgeable of if you decide to go RON. And so in Virginia, there's actually a guide online. It's called the Electronic Assurance Guide that came out, I believe, like a year or 2 ago, that will help you know the law as it pertains to Virginia. So as it is right now, you cannot do a RON session on Zoom, FaceTime, none of that stuff. No, they have very strict guidelines on the type of platform that you can use, the type of technology software. Now in Virginia, they don't tell you exactly which ones you can use, which ones you can't, but they tell you whatever platform you choose to use, it has to meet these qualifications, okay? So if you're looking at getting into RON, I think it's great. It's very lucrative. It's perfect for like the work at home kind of moms and dads that want to stay home and work, but you do have to learn the tech side and the legal side. And you need a little bit of online marketing skills to help make sure you can build your client base to be able to provide those services, okay? But RON is great, and I think you should absolutely give it a try. Number 4, how to charge as a notary in Virginia. So, as per your state handbook, you're allowed to charge $5 per Notorial Act. And then you can charge any agreed upon amount between you and the signer for travel. Okay, that basically means, for lack of better words, you can charge whatever you want as long as the signer agrees to it. People ask me all the time, well, Vanessa, should I go with the IRS mileage standard, or should I have a set flat rate? Because the law tells you you can charge whatever you want that you and the signer agree upon, it's completely up to you. So if you decide to go IRS mileage standard, that's up to you. If you decide to say this is my flat rate, that's up to you. If your rate changes every day, that's up to you. One thing I will say is you want to do market research, and this is where we call it general notary work, where people just call you like from your website or Google Business profile page to do power of attorneys, wills, title transfers, things like that. You would give a rate based on how many documents are being notarized and then the travel, because you're operating as a mobile notary, so you're going to drive to them. But I would do market research, and that's where I would pretend to be a client, call about 20 notaries and say, hey, I need to get a power of attorney done this day. This is the location. How much would that be? And you're going to see people say low rates, high rates, middle rates. My opinion is you want to stay within that middle to high range, okay? Because you want to make sure you are profitable as you are running a business. But As per law, you can charge $5 per notarial act, and then whatever you want for travel. For e-notary, it's $25 per notarial act, and they still allow you to have that travel fee, which is kind of weird because you usually don't have to travel to your computer, but maybe you do, so hey. But that's what it says, $25 per notarial act and travel, and then for in-person, $5 for notarial act plus travel. And those travel fees are completely up to you. So that is how you charge. Also, when it comes to being a loan signing agent, those rates don't apply because you're doing a whole lot more than just operating as a notary. You're printing, you're driving, you're discussing the documents, you're scanning, you're doing a whole lot more. So that's why that rate doesn't apply when we're giving rates for loan closings, okay? Number 6, what are your notarial acts? So there are 4 notarial acts you can perform in the Commonwealth of Virginia, okay? We're gonna go over 3 because the 4th one you hardly ever do. You have copy certifications, acknowledgments, jurats, and verification of fact. We're not going to talk about verification of fact because you hardly ever do them. Acknowledgement is when a signer is acknowledging their signature, okay? A jurat is where the signer is swearing to the contents of the document. So they're saying, I'm signing this, and everything in this document is true. And that's also where you administer the oath, okay? Copy certification is where you have an original document, and you have a copy, and you've seen the original and compared the copy to the original and said, hey, this is an accurate copy of the original, and you certified that copy, okay? Remember, you're not allowed to do copy certs on certain documents, such as death certificates, birth certificates, marriage certificates, things like that, okay? And also, remember, in the state of Virginia, you're not allowed to notarize in any capacity birth certificates, death certificates, certain court-issued documents, and I'm missing one. But it's in your handbook, so make sure you double-check it. So make sure you know what you can and cannot do. You also cannot conduct weddings in Virginia, but we'll get to that in a minute, as a commissioned notary by itself, okay? So the biggest thing is you want to make sure you read your handbook so you know the 4 notarial acts you can perform as a commissioned notary in Virginia. Number 6. The handbook. Okay, so your handbook is super, 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 super important, okay? I can't tell you how many times I'm at a training or a conference or a notary meetup where I'm teaching and I ask everyone in the room, how many of you guys are commissioned? And everyone raised their hands. And then I say, well, how many of you guys are making money? And then they raise their hands. And I say, well, who's read their handbook? And no one raised their hands. Or I'll get 2. Then I'll say, all the way through. And who remembers what they read, okay? This is a real problem because if you don't know the law, you don't know what you can and you cannot do. And that is why so many documents across the country are notarized incorrectly, which can lead to the client suing you. It can lead to a lot of issues within your notarial business because you're not completing your notarial acts correctly. So it's really important that you read the handbook. And so you can find the handbook right online, right where you go to apply for your commission, at the Secretary of the Commonwealth's website. It's about 26 pages. There's a traditional handbook for notaries, like the traditional notaries, and then there's one for e-notaries, and it's called the Electronic Assurance Standard, okay? So I would download both of those, read it, get familiar, master the law. And just to be clear, that's not even all of the law. There's a lot of laws as it pertains to notaries. They take the laws that are actually written, the code, and they put it together and make it like easy to understand. They put it in a handbook. But it's not every law, every code that exists as it pertains to notaries. So to see all of the code that exists for Virginia, I'm actually going to put a link in the description below so you can start to see all of the laws that exist for notaries. But first, start off reading the handbook, the e-notary guide, and then you can start looking into the actual code for Virginia. And this just helps you to be that super knowledgeable notary. So a lot of my clients come to me because I know the law. I take time to study and research and stay up to date. So when they call me with different things, I know what we can do legally. Okay, although I don't provide legal advice outside of the notary space, I know the legalities of my industry. And so people trust me because I have taken the time to master my craft. I didn't just get my commission, buy a stamp, and started stamping things. Just say, oh, look what I did. No, I took time to master my industry, and that's why I've been so successful in this space, because I feed myself knowledge that will then in turn generate revenue for myself. I master my craft, okay? So begin with reading your handbook. Number 7, weddings. So everyone's probably been hearing about this now, how people are doing weddings in our industry. But let me clear this up. In the Commonwealth of Virginia, as a commissioned notary, you are not allowed to conduct a wedding. You would have to apply to be a wedding officiant or a civil celebrant, depending on your courthouse, what the rules are. You actually apply within your local courthouse, and you can apply just for your city or county coverage, or you can apply for statewide coverage in the Commonwealth of Virginia, okay? But you're not doing it as a notary. You're conducting weddings as a civil celebrant or a wedding officiant. Also in Virginia, the fee that you charge is not regulated, so you would set your own rate. So once again, I recommend that you do market research. But it's really important that you know this, because people will call you and ask you as a notary, can you sign off and notarize this wedding license? And it does look like you probably could fill it out because of the verbiage. You cannot, okay? As a notary, if you complete a wedding license, they are not married. Okay, and they're gonna be really upset when it comes out later that they are not married. But it's actually a really funny story. I know of a notary who's been doing it for years, and she got into the wedding space, but she didn't know that she needed to become a wedding officiant. But she knows now, she got it fixed. But the point is, she signed off on a wedding, and I think like a year later, the couple was getting a divorce, and they went to try to file for all the divorce proceedings and found out they were never married. Now, in this situation, it worked out great because they didn't have to pay for divorce. But most people would be really upset to find out that they're not actually married. So it's really important that you know, as a commissioned notary, you cannot conduct weddings. You'd have to go apply for an additional wedding license to be a wedding officiant or a civil celebrant in Virginia. But it's very profitable, it's very lucrative, it's a great stream to add on to your notary business. Number 8, apostasis. Okay, so at this point, if you've been online at all looking at notary related things, you probably have seen or heard the term apostasis. Let me clear this up. In no state does the notary actually issue the apostille, okay? In this Commonwealth of Virginia, the Secretary of the Commonwealth is the only person, the only entity that issues the apostilles, okay? You do not do apostilles. The only entity is the Secretary of the Commonwealth's office. Okay, now you can be what they call an apostille agent, and that is where you collect the docs. They may need to be notarized. You prep them up, and you either deliver them or mail them to the Secretary of the Commonwealth's office. They will then review and apply the apostille. Okay, so you don't do the apostille yourself. You're what's called an apostille agent. Fun fact, you actually do not have to be a notary to be an apostille agent. But notaries usually do it because a lot of the documents that will get apostilled first must be notarized, okay? So that's why notaries are usually the ones who would then become the apostille agent, but it's not a requirement. So anyone could actually get into the apostille space. But the important thing to know is that you are not actually doing the apostille. So when you talk to your clients, you can say, yes, I can help you get this apostille done, but it gets issued by the Secretary of the Commonwealth, okay? Second thing, once again, this is another service that's not regulated by law as per what you can charge for the apostille agent service. So once again, do market research, see what the market can bear, figure out, what you can charge, do some calls to other notaries that offer apostille services, pretend to be a client, get a kind of feel for what it's gonna cost you to do it, okay, if you want to add apostilles on. I have a whole course on that as well at notarytonotary.com. I'll put the link in the description below. And a really good book I'll link down there too for one of my good friends, Judy Lawrence, who we call the Queen of Apostilles. I'm going to link her book down there too. Because it is a very, it's a lot to know. I will tell you that. It's not something that you can just get in. And I will tell you, being a notary, maybe, I was going to say being a notary maybe a little easier, but it's not. They both require a lot of work. But I'll link both the course and the book in my description below, so you can check that out if you're interested in adding apostilles onto your notary service. Number 9, the Secretary of the Commonwealth. Okay, so you applied to be a notary, and you actually applied through the Secretary of the Commonwealth. Let me clear this up too. Anyone who wants to become a notary, you can always go through your Secretary of State, okay? There are other companies and organizations that will say, hey, you can apply with me to get your commission. It's basically a third party. When you go to another company and you pay them and give them your information, they're going to take your information and go to the Secretary of State. Okay? There is no other place in all the states that will issue a commission. It goes through the Secretary of the State's office to issue the commission. So if you go to another organization, that's completely up to you. But just know you can always go right to your Secretary of State's office to apply for your notary commission. Okay? If you have an employer and you're operating as a notary underneath them and they took your information and went and submitted it to apply, your commission is not through your job, okay? You are always commissioned by the state. Your job just did the application. You are commissioned by the Secretary of the State's office. Does that make sense? So even if you go through anyone else and they're doing it, it's like if you go, you ever seen people who say, oh, I need an EIN number, and they'll go different places and they'll say, oh, I'll get your EIN number for you, pay this, pay that, yada, yada. It doesn't matter where you go. Your EIN number will always come from the IRS. It doesn't matter if you go to John's EIN service or Billy's EIN service, they all have to go through the IRS, okay? So when you want to get your notary commission, you have to, it still has to come from the Secretary of State's office. So I always tell people, just go right to the source, do the application, and that's how you get commission. Now, the Secretary of the Commonwealth, they're the ones who will provide the handbooks online, any updates on notarial law. If you have questions, you can call them. They also have an email address. They prefer that you actually email instead of call because of the high call volume, but they're really good with responding. You can call, you can email if you have questions as it pertains to Virginia notarial law. Now, they're not going to answer questions like on how do I market my business? How do I become a loan signing agent? You know, they're not going to tell you how to build your business at all. They're going to answer questions about the law. What is the law in Virginia as it pertains to my notary? Okay, so let's say, for example, you call and you say, hey, I have a client who wants to get a will done and he wants to know if this verbiage in his will is legal. They're not going to answer that. Okay, that's a different field. But if you say, hey, I need to notarize a will, I want to know, can I use this notarial statement? Like, is this notarial statement, does it work? Does it have all the pieces that needs to be on there in order for the notarization to be accurate? You see what I'm saying? They'll tell you how to operate as a notary with your notarial acts, but nothing else, okay? Notary law, period. That's it. Okay, but it's a really good resource to have, and you really should create an account on their website and just stay up to date with any press releases that they have or any updates to the law so you can make sure that you're always operating within the legalities of the law within Virginia. And number 10 is relax and have fun. I honestly can tell you, when I became a notary, I had no idea, and I say that all the time, I had no idea it was this much. I had no idea it was this much fun. It was this lucrative. It was such a large community of notaries who support each other. I knew none of this, okay? And so since I started in 2014, I actually love this space. I love being able to work on my own time. I love being able to set my own rates. I love being able to meet so many different people all across the world now because I do RON. But the one thing I will always say is, yes, it's great. You can make great money. You have to know the law. You have to learn how to build a business. You have to know the legalities. Like setting up an LLC it's elementary. That's like the first thing. Like, you know what I mean? You know, there's so much that goes into business building if you want to make this a lucrative business. And I'm not saying that you have to hire employees and, you know, scale nationwide. No. But if you want to build something that can sustain you and your household, you can absolutely do that. You don't have to go super big, but you still want to know how to build a successful notary business. And the best way to do that is getting your commission, reading your law, and then getting trained, okay? And people will say, oh, I think I can figure it out, and they'll go on YouTube and watch videos. They'll go on Google and find a bunch of stuff. But what happens is, if you go on Google and you say how to become a notary, you're going to get a boatload of things, like how to market, how to do this. You're going to get so much, and you don't know, because you're new to the space, is this right? Is this wrong? Is this right? Is this wrong? And I've had so many students come to me after trying to wing it on their own that have spent so much money on things they do not need because they saw it on Google, okay? Or have done things they thought they could do because they read it on Google. For example, if you Google, I don't know if Google changed it, but if you Google what are the current attorney states, and this is as it pertains to loan signings, for a while, Google was listing Virginia as an attorney state, which was saying that if in Virginia you cannot conduct loan closings without having an attorney present. That is not true. That is not true. That is not the law. That is not a valid current. And that was like years ago, it was saying that for a while. And so if you just go on Google, anyone can post on Google. Sometimes Google is wrong, I know, right? And so that's why I say it's so important to get trained, but you want to get trained by someone who has the experience, has the knowledge base, and the credibility, right? Because if you just go out and just keep trying to find stuff, you're going to waste money. You're going to waste money and you're going to waste time, period. Best way, I'm not even, I hear these stories all the time. I had one young lady, she might be seeing this video right now. She came to me and she said, Vanessa, all she did, I think, was got her commission and her stamps, and someone told her to go on Yelp and run ads. That was it. Commission, stamp, run ads. She had spent like $2,000 on Yelp ads and didn't make a cent. Not a cent. And I was like, who told you to do that? I forget if she saw it online or in a Facebook group. Anyway, then she became one of my students, and I coached her. I said, okay, I told her, I said, do not buy anything else until you email me first, and I will tell you what you need to do. Because there is a lot of content out there that's wrong. There's a lot of content out there that's not as effective in getting you the results that you want. And I always say, if you're going to pick a trainer and you're going to pick a program, pick someone that has the results that you're looking for. That way you know what they're teaching you is going to actually produce for you. Okay, so those are my top 10 things I think you should know as a commissioned notary public in Virginia. To get more training, you can follow me online on all the social media platforms at Notary to Notary. You can also go online to notarytonotary.com. We have coaching, live events, and our training programs. I recommend you get into our Ultimate Notary Training, which is going to teach you general notary work, loan closing, tax financial management, and e-notary. Okay, definitely start there. Reach out to me if you have questions. I'm here to help you. And until next time, happy signing.